Hey guys, what's going on? InsidiousSwede back again here for another YouTube video, and today I'm going to talk about 10 manga, in my opinion, that are underappreciated. Now, I actually have made this video before. I think it was entitled like Top 10 Underrated Manga or something like that, but I've gained a lot of new subscribers since then, and I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing to do this list twice because there really are a lot of great manga out there that are underrated. Also, the most frequently asked question I get on this channel is, can you recommend manga to me that I haven't heard of, that are underrated, that, you know, don't get enough credit? All of these kinds of variations of the same question, basically asking, what are some manga series that I haven't heard of that you think I would enjoy? So hopefully each and every one of you can get something like that out of this list. And there is one duplicate from my last video I made like this, but that's for a good reason. It's because, in my opinion, it's still underappreciated. So let's get into it, starting off with actually a 1-volume series, because I know a lot of you can't afford a 30-volume series, so ideally a 1-volume title might be more beneficial to you, and I definitely don't see enough people talking about this manga. So to start off, the first series that I feel is underappreciated is The God's Lie. This is an amazing young romance title based around these two characters here. Even in the middle, there's a pretty big dark plot twist that I was not expecting, and despite the fact it's a little over 200 pages, the manga really made me care about the characters, about the setting, about the storyline, and by the end of it, I thought it was an amazing series, so well done. Also, as you can see, the artwork is really high quality, I have to say. It's beautiful to look at as well, so truly an amazing series, guys. If you haven't heard of The God's Lie, I would highly recommend it. It is a bit more emotional than most manga I tend to read, but I still feel that it's very well done. So yeah, first series I wanted to recommend is The God's Lie. The second series that I feel is underappreciated is actually Parasite. Now, I know this manga just got an anime not too long ago, but I still feel that not enough people have actually given the manga a chance. It really is a beautifully written series. I love the characterization in here. It's about a kid named Shinichi who one day finds a weird thing in his hand, and he sees it kind of crawling up his arm, so in order to stop it, he ties a rubber band around his arm, and so this parasite ends up only taking over his hand. What we later find out is that apparently most of these parasites go and take over the brain and are kind of there for essentially world domination, though it's a lot more complicated than that. It's a beautifully written series, a lot of amazing horror elements in here, a lot of, you know, brutal, gory scenes, even some romance, and honestly, one of the best endings I've seen in a manga series. It truly is a phenomenal read. If you guys haven't read it yet or have passed up on it, or have simply only seen the anime, I would strongly recommend checking out Parasite because it's one of my favorite series of all time, and again, I do not see enough people reading it. The next series that I feel is underappreciated is another classic that is truly a brilliant title, and that is Lone Wolf and Cub. Now, recently, I myself just got into this series, so I'm kind of at fault here too, because it took me so long to get around to reading Lone Wolf and Cub. And so far, from what I've read, it's been absolutely brilliant. I love the characters. The artwork in here is absolutely stunning. It's a lot like Blade of the Immortal in that sense. A lot of the storytelling is done with its artwork, and as you can see, it does it very, very well. And yeah, these omnibuses by Dark Horse are not ideal, but I feel that the story is more than worth it. So if you haven't read Lone Wolf and Cub, you're missing out on an absolute classic samurai tale. And even now, the spin-off, or I guess sequel, the new Lone Wolf and Cub, which is based around the kid in this series. So if you haven't read this title, you're missing out. So far, it's been an absolute classic, and I cannot wait to read more myself. The next manga that I'm going to recommend, I'm kind of surprised that I have to recommend it considering the name behind it, but the next series and the fourth manga that I consider to be underappreciated is Master Keaton. Now, I will stress this is only drawn by Naoki Urasawa. 2 other mangaka here are on the story, but I will note that I have read this first volume here, and I would be shocked if Naoki Urasawa did not have some hand in the storyline here, because it definitely has a similar tone to a series like Pluto or Monster. Not quite the same again, but similar tone, and you're still getting the amazing Naoki Urasawa artwork. So for me, it's a win-win. And again, I'm shocked that I have to recommend it here because it is done by Naoki Urasawa, but again, it's truly an amazing title that I just don't see enough people talking about it. So if you haven't read Master Keaton, I'm not entirely sure if the entire manga has released yet, but it definitely has been over for a while. It finished in the 90s, so it is a complete manga, and either finished releasing or should be finished releasing very, very soon. So I would highly recommend checking out Master Keaton if you have not yet. Alright, the next manga I'm going to talk about is the series that I mentioned at the beginning of this video. Is the second time I'm now recommending it in a video like this, but that is Ikigami: The Ultimate Limit. So far, and again, I'm kind of at fault here too, I only own the first 4 volumes, and it is completed at 11, but basically this series is about the Japanese government putting in place a system that every 24 hours, a random citizen of the country is killed. Now, this is done so in order to 1, increase productivity throughout the country, and 2, to make every person value their lives more. And this is not something they have a say in. They're simply subjected to die because of a drug they were injected with when they were younger. And it's truly a brutal outlook on life and death and how every day really does matter, and it kind of follows around all of these people who are, you know, chosen essentially to be killed by given the Ikigami, which is essentially a death certificate. And it really is an amazing series. As you can see, the artwork in here is truly incredible. I have to say, I love the way this series is drawn. And again, very underrated in my opinion. Completed at 11 volumes and truly an underrated series in my opinion. So if you haven't read Ikigami: The Ultimate Limit yet, I would highly, highly recommend checking it out. Alright, the next manga that I want to talk about is actually still fairly new. It only came out in 2016, but that is To the Abandoned Sacred Beasts. Now, this is a series about a warring nation between the North and the South. Essentially, what happened is the North decided to use dark magic in order to turn volunteers into these beasts that can, you know, win the war for them. So now that the war has concluded and the North has won, a man named Hank right here is going around and essentially killing off all of these beasts because they're no longer needed. And it also follows this girl right here named Nancy, which, by the way, there's not too many strong female protagonists in manga, let's be honest, but I think Nancy is a better example of this. I think she's a strong character, has a lot of good personality, and also, something to keep in mind, Hank, the man who she's with, is also the beast hunter that killed her father. So it's a really interesting story there, and currently every volume is only building upon what this first volume did. So really strong series, guys. I would highly recommend checking it out. The next manga up is truly written by a mangaka genius, and that is Gyo by Junji Ito. This manga was phenomenal, and if you have read Junji Ito works, most likely Gyo is the work that you haven't read yet, but most likely none of you have read anything from Ito, which it's unfortunate because he truly is an incredible mangaka, and I would say Gyo is probably his most underrated work. And honestly, it's probably not a popular opinion, but I enjoyed Gyo more than Uzumaki, which is probably his most famous work. The spirals, of course. But yeah, this is just such a creepy series about these alien infestations, and it's truly an amazing series, guys. So if you haven't read it and like horror manga, then clearly you're missing out. But yeah, love this series. The Crazy Shark is always my favorite But yeah, just a creepy series, very similar to Uzumaki, as all of his manga tend to be very similar, just with different kind of horror elements in there, but still a amazing series with great characters and a lot of good horror in there as well. So definitely check out Gyo if you haven't yet. The next manga up is one that I've been recommending to people for absolutely forever. Basically, since I read volume 1, I seem to have been recommending this manga to people in some form or another, but that is Batum. Now, of course, it gets a lot of comparisons to other manga. It's not the most original idea ever, but despite that fact, it is a very well done manga. I absolutely love this series. It's about, of course, kind of like a battle royale type series where these characters are thrown onto an island and pitted against each other in order to collect enough chips in order to escape the island. And it's really interesting to see how these characters go through this whole ordeal, especially our main character, who has some pretty great character progression throughout the manga. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. It may start off as kind of a ripoff of a battle royale kind of title, but by volume 10, it has differentiated itself quite a lot into a very unique idea. So if that's what's stopping you, then I would give Batum a look. But again, also the yen press price point can also be a bit of a turnoff here. They definitely charge a bit more for their manga, so keep that in mind, but still a great read. I love this series, guys, so if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely at least try volume 1. Alright, so the next series up is by a mangaka that I would dare to say every single one of his works is underappreciated, but this one definitely stands out by itself, and that is Biomega. Tsutomu Nihei is truly one of the greatest mangaka I have ever read or seen artwork from. He truly has a way to create very unique atmospheres, very unique worlds, and I honestly love everything that he's done so far. The weakest probably being Blam, but Knights of Sidonia is truly an absolute classic. But Biomega is probably his most underrated work, just because I do not see literally anybody talking about it, anybody owning it, anybody making videos on it, and it really is an amazing series. If it was just an art book, it would be amazing with his artwork in here, but there's also a very compelling story attached to this about a robot trying to save humanity, which is kind of ironic. There's talking bears wielding guns, and it just is so ridiculous but amazing at the same time. So if you have passed on Biomega before or haven't heard of it, I would highly recommend giving it a shot. And the last manga that I'm going to talk about in this video is Dimension W. This is another manga that came out in 2016 that, again, I do not see anybody talking about it, and I don't know why. It's a great series about humanity essentially discovering a fourth dimension, and inside this dimension they have discovered limitless energy as a fuel source, and humanity has created these coils that are able to harness this power from the fourth dimension, and it follows some interesting characters, has a very interesting universe behind it, and has a very compelling story as well. So far, really great from Dimension W. I can't say that I love it so far, but everything that I've read from it has been very interesting, very unique, and very well done. So again, it's another manga that definitely is underappreciated. And that, in my opinion, was 10 manga series that I would feel are underappreciated and are worth checking out. Hopefully each and every one of you found at least one title to write down to keep in mind for later on. But anyways, guys, thank you for watching. I'm InsidiousSwede, and until next time, take care.